Let's look at some of the big shifts that it brings into an organization. One is something we're used to in organizations is the static job description, right? How many of you, by the way, in your companies, within the past 24 hours or so, have run to your job description to figure out with real good clarity what's needed from you today? Right? Probably not many. They are typically useless. They're out of date by the time they roll off the printer. Holacracy replaces that with a very different kind of job description, if you will, or a role description. And they're dynamic. They're changing constantly. They're not somebody's good idea that they invented in their own head, a year ago of what you should be doing. They're the result of you and your colleagues working together every day and trying to figure out what do we need to pay attention to get the work done. Right? And there's a process for capturing that in a set of roles, right, that give you real grounded clarity that you do want to go look at often every day, because it gives you real information about what we've learned together and how we should work together. And the other thing here is when you have a role, you need the authority and autonomy to go execute it in an organization. And with most companies, we see the kind of management hierarchy trying to delegate authority, but we all know really who's in charge, right? And when the boss says something, the boss gives you a suggestion, right? You know what that kind of means, right? With holacracy, it's truly a distributed authority paradigm, much like our city example, our real lives, right? I know that I have the authority and autonomy to live my life, to use my car and my computer, and my neighbor doesn't. There's no boss to tell me what to do with my property, my life. And that's what holacracy brings into an organization. So when you have a role, you have the autonomy to execute it. There is no boss to contradict you. It is yours to lead, right? Which can also be uncomfortable because it's yours to lead. Right? It's your role. You have true distributed authority. And so does everyone else. Again, my neighbor has his authority, I have mine. The same is true in an organization running with holacracy. We each have authority. It's different authority. No one has authority over someone else. It's distributed authority. Another key shift here is, anyone been through the large-scale reorgs, every few years or so, right? Instead of that, holacracy says, you know what, we do need to reorg. We need to do it in small micro-adjustments constantly throughout the company. So there is a process, it's called a governance process, that holacracy adds, and it's done in every team. And what it's doing is inviting everyone who works on that team to update those dynamic roles, to encode more clarity, more transparency of what do we really need to do to work together better. Okay? This governance process happens in every team as we learn together, and we're constantly reorganizing our team in little ways. So change becomes a constant distributed function of the organization. And finally, anyone master the art of getting change done through politics? And you kind of have to in a lot of organizations today. If you really want to get change to happen, you got to learn to play the political game. I learned early on that, if the boss didn't see whatever it was I thought was needed, it wasn't going to get very far. So if you want to enact change, you got to play the politics. Well, instead of that, what holacracy gives you is a transparent set of rules. Rules of the game for how to enact change. So instead of having to go and convince everyone and build consensus, anyone been in the kind of painful meetings where you're trying to build buy-in and consensus with everyone else in the room, and you get through hours of meeting just trying to do that and don't make much in the way of actual work or decisions? I'd much rather go into a disciplined process that allows me the ability to sense something that I think should be better, right, and bring a proposal to change it, and a process to hold that, so I don't have to play the politics and get the buy-in and consensus and all that. Holacracy adds that in every team, a process, a governance process, again, to change things.